The Three Chickens That Could, by Keith Young, Chapter 1, The Cage and the Conveyor. The factory buzzed with a sound that never stopped, metal clanks, conveyor belts humming, machines groaning like tired beasts. Above it all, the air smelled of ammonia and feathers, of birth and death. There was no sunrise here, just buzzing light bulbs and the cold press of metal cages. Molly had never seen the sky. She was a hen, a Delaware like the rest, bred to lay eggs and nothing more. Her cage was barely larger than her own body, shared with Henrietta a Australorp and Lucy a speckled Sussex. They couldn't stretch their wings. They couldn't move without stepping on each other. Their days were all the same: lay an egg, watch it roll onto the belt, and wait. But today was different. Today a scream rang out, not a chicken's, but something sharper. Molly turned her head, wincing against the wire that raked her beak. On the floor below, a man in a blood-streaked apron chased a small animal with a metal rod. "A weasel," Lucy gasped. "Is he trying to eat the eggs?" "No," Henrietta whispered. "He's trying not to die." The weasel darted behind crates and under belts, but he was limping. The man cornered him near the wall, raising his rod for a killing blow. Without thinking, Molly cried out, "Here!" The weasel looked up, desperate. Molly stuck out her wing as far as she could through the cage bars. He didn't hesitate. He jumped, scrambled up the chute, and curled under her wing. She huddled over him, pretending to be broody. The man paused, grunted, then walked off, muttering. Only when the sounds of boots faded did Molly pull back. The weasel poked his head out, shaking. You saved me," he said. "You looked like you needed it." "I'm a weasel. Chickens don't help weasels." "Well, we're not your average chickens," Molly replied. The weasel sat up, wincing from his leg. "Name's Tobias. I won't forget this. I owe you one. I'll make it count." Molly tilted her head. "Then tell us, where do the eggs go?" Tobias looked at the conveyor belt carrying away their offspring. "Some go to stores. Humans eat them. Others go to the hatchery, in the building next door, where the eggs are hatched in incubators. Incubator is a temperature-controlled room where the eggs hatch, and the chicks are sold to market, to farmers and people that just want chickens." Lucy nodded. "Yes, the roosters that have court some of us said they lived in the hatchery before they moved here. They are sad. They say new chicks start to crow. They get excited to have some brethren around, only to be taken away before they can grow. Do you know where they are taken to?" The weasel's face darkened, and said, "Yes. The male chicks of egg-laying breeder hens are unable to lay eggs and are not bred to produce excessive flesh for the meat industry. They are killed. Every year, 200 million of these young birds are ground up alive or tossed into bags to suffocate. Also, many male chicks that are hatched from irresponsible breeders are sold to be used for reptile food, eaten alive by a reptile. If a rooster makes it past the first few days, the next hurdle is when it starts to crow. If the owner doesn't want a rooster, most will try to rehome. But roosters are very difficult to rehome because they do not produce eggs. So many times, roosters are dumped to be hit by a car, eaten by a predator, or die of dehydration or starvation. Some roosters are used for cockfighting, where their spurs are replaced with knives to fight to the death. The hens went quiet. Molly felt something sink in her chest. She had laid thousands of eggs. How many sons had she unknowingly birthed into death? Tobias looked up at her. "You want out of here?" Henrietta scoffed. "Is that even possible? I know the ducts. I can get you out. I'll take you to a place with land, with sky. A cow farm. You'd like cows. They're huge and gentle. But we have to move fast." The Three Chickens That Could, Chapter 2, The Escape. The factory groaned with the weight of another day. Machines moved without conscience, and the scent of fear hung thick in the recycled air. But beneath the hum of conveyor belts and the rattle of cages, something was happening. Something no chicken had ever dared. Tobias led them through a forgotten maintenance tunnel behind the rows of cages. The hens had never touched the floor before. They stumbled, unused to balance, their claws slipping on the cold concrete. "Slow," Tobias coached. "Use your tails for balance. You'll get the hang of it." It felt like walking for the first time. Henrietta wept quietly as they passed broken crates and empty egg trays. Lucy clutched the rescued egg beneath her wings, whispering to it like a lullaby. After what felt like hours, they reached a metal grate. Freedom's on the other side, Tobias said. But it's a drop. Can you jump? They looked down. It wasn't far, but it was the unknown. Beyond the grate was night. Real night. Not the fake glow of bulbs, but starlight, wind. A scent that made Molly's chest ache. Grass. Molly stepped forward. I'm not a caged chicken anymore, and she jumped. Her wings spread, wobbly, awkward, but they caught enough air to slow her fall. She hit the grass hard, rolled, and let out a shocked laugh. I'm outside, she cried. Sky! That's the sky! Lucy landed beside her, Henrietta followed, breathing hard. Tobias slinked through a pipe and dropped beside them. Welcome to the world, girls. They stood there, in awe. The field rolled out like a green ocean, mist hugging the earth. Above them, stars blinked for the first time in their lives. What is that sound? Lucy asked. Crickets, Tobias said. I thought the word was just metal and noise, Henrietta whispered. No, he said. That was the lie. This is the truth. They turned toward the hills in the distance. Come, said Tobias. We've got a long walk, but at the end of it, there's a farm where animals are treated like they matter. A place with cows and children and sun. They turned toward the hills in the distance. Come, said Tobias. We've got a long walk, but at the end of it, there's a farm where animals are treated like they matter. A place with cows and children and sun. Molly looked back, one last time, at the factory behind them. Then she faced forward. We're not property, she said. We're not machines. And together, the three chickens that could began their journey to freedom. As they moved through the field, they came upon a wooden fence. Behind it stood a creature the hens had only heard about. A cow. She was enormous, towering, gentle-eyed, chewing grass with a sleepy rhythm. Molly stepped forward cautiously. Excuse me, are you a cow? The cow blinked down at her. I am. Name's Petunia. You're beautiful, Lucy said softly. Petunia chuckled. Well, that's a first. Who might you be? We're escapees, Molly said. From a factory. We're trying to find a place where animals are safe. Petunia lowered her head. Then you're close. This is Bright Hollow Farm. You'll find no cages here. Henrietta's eyes filled with tears. No cages? No. No crates, no belts, no starvation. You'll get sun, grass, bugs to scratch at, and fresh water every day. There are humans here, kind ones. They don't take more than they give. Lucy asked, What do you do here? Petunia chewed thoughtfully. We live, we rest, we teach children how to be kind. They come, they pet us, they ask questions. We remind them what love looks like. Tobias leaned in toward Molly. This is the place I told you about. I've helped others get here, but I've never brought anyone from the inside. Molly stepped up to the gate and looked at Petunia. May we come in? Petunia smiled and moved toward the barn. A young woman in overalls emerged, holding a tin bucket. Her face lit up when she saw the chickens. Oh my goodness, more rescues? She said gently. Look at you, sweethearts. She opened the gate. Molly, Lucy, and Henrietta walked in together. For the first time, no one yelled, no one shoved, no one expected them to produce anything. They were welcomed. Later that day, the hens lay in soft straw. Lucy's egg hatched in a box warmed by blankets and a red heat lamp. A tiny, golden chick poked through the shell, blinking at the world it was never supposed to see. Molly watched him with awe. What should we name him? Henrietta smiled. Hope. Lucy nodded. Hope it is. Tobias curled up beside them, his tail flicking in sleep. Outside, children gathered by the fence, pointing and laughing, not at them, but in joy. There they are, one girl said, the three chickens that could. And for the first time, they believed it too. The Three Chickens That Could, Chapter 4, Life at Bright Hollow Farm. Bright Hollow Farm was unlike anything the hens had ever imagined. The days were no longer measured by conveyor belts or feeding troughs, but by the angle of the sun and the laughter of children. Here, they weren't numbers. They had names, voices, and choices. Molly found herself rising early each morning, not because of machines or lights, but because she wanted to. She would perch on the fence post and watch the sky shift from violet to gold. Every sunrise was a small miracle. Henrietta's took to the garden paths, scratching for worms, occasionally scolding the younger chicks who ran too close to the compost bin. Manners, she would say, clicking her beak, even in paradise. Lucy stayed close to the coop, mothering her tiny rooster Hope. He was a curious, bright-eyed fluffball who chirped constantly and pecked at everything, including Tobias's tail. "He's got spirit," Tobias grumbled one afternoon as Hope launched a playful attack on his paw. "That's the point," Lucy said proudly. "He's alive." New faces. The hens weren't the only animals at Bright Hollow. The barn was a mosaic of stories and survivors. They met Clover, a three-legged goat who had escaped a backyard meat operation. She taught them to climb hay bales and laugh without shame. There was Edgar, a pot-bellied pig who once lived in a tiny apartment and had been rescued when his owners realized pigs were not lapdogs. Edgar was now the farm's unofficial philosopher. Freedom isn't just walking out a door, he told them one evening while they all lay in the hay. It's choosing how to live once you've crossed the threshold. And there were cows, gentle giants with names like Luna, Bellflower, and Moose. They moved slow and steady, like walking dreams. Children visited daily. They came in school groups, families, and sometimes just wandering teenagers who had never seen a real chicken up close. At first, the hens were nervous. But then something strange happened. The children listened. They asked questions. One girl sat with Molly and whispered, "My teacher said eggs just come from the store. But they come from you, don't they?" Molly nodded. The girl frowned. "Did it hurt?" Molly paused. "Not at first, but when you never stop, when you're used up and nobody cares, yes, it hurts." The girl hugged her gently. "I won't forget." A mission. Over time, the hens realized they weren't just survivors, they were ambassadors. People came to Bright Hollow for many reasons, but they left with new eyes. Eyes that saw chickens not as food or objects, but as individuals. "I used to think roosters were mean," a boy said to Lucy one afternoon. "But Hope is cool. He lets his mom eat first." "Roosters are protectors," Lucy said. "He'll grow into one." Besides their majestic beauty, roosters are just simply awesome. They are smart, affectionate, and as loyal as a dog. They will protect their hens to the death when they sense danger. They warn their hens with a screech, and the hens go running for cover. Roosters will hunt for food. When they find it, they do a dance with a twitter sound to draw the hens. Then, they will wait until the hens are done eating to eat. Rooster's sperm is very hardy. When he mates, his sperm can stay viable in a hen for up to 2 weeks. The rooster is a nest maker and will make nests for his hens to lay eggs. As far as being mean, it's all about how you handle them. Roosters, male chickens, are the most abandoned, unwanted, exploited, and stigmatized land animal on the planet. There are so many myths and bad advice, which have led rooster keepers to think they have no choice but to respond to the rooster harshly, expel them from the flock, abandon them, or kill them. There is a stereotype within the chicken community that roosters have tempers, are challenging, and not worth the hassle. Also, many believe that the way to relate to their rooster is to embarrass them, or be combative or aggressive towards them. The problem is, this is what started the misunderstanding in the first place. Okay, here's how to lovingly tame a rooster in 4 steps. Before taming a rooster, it is important to know the rooster's behavior. 1. Your goal is to retrain your rooster. Therefore, when you are not training, make sure the rooster is in the run where he cannot attack. 2. Change your relationship of dominant, submissive with your rooster to one of friendship and mutual respect. Put on long pants, a sweatshirt, long gloves, boots, and face protection. And when your rooster attacks you, stand still. Keep talking to him in a friendly baby voice. He will get tired out and stop. By standing still, you are not giving him what he wants. He wanted you to walk away, making you submissive, or fight, making you the dominant. By not doing either, you are telling him you want to be partners. 3. Becoming friends. Sit on the ground and let your rooster come up to you and make eye contact with him. Talk to him in a sweet voice and show him you respect him. Feed him mealworms or something he likes, out of your hand. 4. Transitioning from still movement to moving around. Keeping eye contact with your rooster, move your arm up a foot. If he attacks your arm, leave it where it is. He will stop. Continue to do this until walking around does not cause him to attack you. Henrietta started giving small talks to the older visitors. She had a flair for storytelling. "We were born in wire cages," she would begin. "But now we stretch our wings in the sun, and that makes all the difference." Even Tobias found purpose. He helped the farm staff with nighttime security, chasing off raccoons and alerting them to sick animals. He never went near the chicken coop uninvited, keeping his promise every day. A new kind of legacy. One night, as the stars bloomed overhead, the three hens sat together on the highest perch in the coop, watching Hope sleep below. "Do you think others will make it out?" Lucy asked. "Yes," Molly said, "because someone will read about us, or meet us, or see a video of Hope crowing for the first time, and something in their heart will change." Henrietta looked thoughtful. "Do you know what I've realized?" "What?" "That the world doesn't need more chickens in cages. It needs more chickens in fields. More stories like ours." Molly nodded. "Then we'll keep telling it, as long as there are ears to listen." And so they did. The Three Chickens That Could. Chapter 5. The visitors who changed everything. The morning started like any other. Lucy chased Hope through the garden. Molly pecked lazily at a tomato vine, and Henrietta was mid-lecture to a group of teenage volunteers about the indignity of wire cages. Tobias dozed beneath a shady tree, one eye open just in case. Then a van pulled up the dirt road. It was black, unmarked, and humming quietly. Out stepped two humans with cameras, microphones, and quiet, serious eyes. A woman in a denim jacket with a clipboard tucked under her arm approached the farm owner. Molly watched from the fence. "New visitors?" "Documentary crew," Tobias muttered, stretching. "Been hearing about them. Word's gotten out about Bright Hollow." Lucy looked up, startled. "You mean people know about us?" "They will. Lights, camera, truth." The crew set up quickly, like they'd done it 1,000 times. One filmed wide shots of the pastures. Another knelt near the barn, capturing close-ups of Clover the goat chewing contentedly. The woman in denim crouched near Molly. "You must be the one they call Molly," she said softly. "You're kind of famous around here." Molly clucked shyly. "We've heard your story," the woman continued. "Born in a cage, escaped, rescued. You saved a weasel, didn't you?" "He saved us back," Molly said. The woman blinked. "Did you just—" "Yes," Tobias said, appearing beside her with a flick of his tail. "You'll get used to it." They interviewed the hens one by one. The camera didn't flinch when Lucy explained what happened to most male chicks. It didn't turn away when Henrietta described how her beak had once been seared off with a hot blade. "You tell them everything," Tobias whispered from behind the lens. "Don't let them look away." The crew spent 3 days at Bright Hollow, filming, listening, crying behind their cameras. They captured Hope's first crow at sunrise, and the gentle way a child laid her cheek against Molly's back. Going viral. 2 weeks later, the video was published. The Three Chickens That Could, a story of survival, truth, and hope. It spread fast, first in local circles, then national ones, then global. People shared it with captions like, "I never thought I could cry over a chicken. Everyone should see this. I used to think animals didn't feel this much. I was wrong." High schools played it in ethics classes. Animal rights groups cited it in presentations. Even some farmers wrote in, rethinking how they raised their own birds. Visitors and vows. Bright Hollow grew busier. More rescued animals arrived. A blind duck named Sammy, 2 ex-racing greyhounds, a whole flock of retired hens, missing feathers and trust, who gradually learned to perch beside Molly and the others. Families traveled from across the country just to meet them. One day, a boy arrived with a homemade sign. "I'm going vegan because of you." Molly read it and smiled gently. "That's why we told our story." Tobias nudged the sign. "You're changing the world." "No," Molly said. "We're reminding the world it still has a heart." The Three Chickens That Could. Chapter 6. The Storm and the Stand. Summer turned the fields golden. Bright Hollow was thriving. More animals saved, more volunteers arriving each weekend, more love poured into every barn beam and blade of grass. But with growth came scrutiny. One afternoon, while the hens dozed beneath a sun-dappled tree, a sleek black car rolled up the gravel path. This time, it wasn't a documentary crew or curious visitors. A man in a pressed suit stepped out, flanked by 2 others holding clipboards and rolled blueprints. Molly's feathers prickled. "Developers," Tobias growled from the porch. "I know the scent. trouble ensues. The threat. The farm owner, Ms. Jamie, met them at the gate. They spoke in low voices, but the hens listened carefully, peeking through fence slats. Valuable land, county rezoning, make a generous offer. Not for sale. Not yet, but the board could force. Molly turned to Henrietta's. They want to take the farm. To build what? Lucy asked. Tobias narrowed his eyes. Stores, roads, maybe another factory. Hope let out a confused sheep from under Lucy's wing. Why would anyone take this place away? Henrietta's voice was firm. Because some people only see value in what they can sell. The community rises. News spread fast. Ms. Jamie called a town meeting that night in the barn. We've received notice, she said to the crowd of volunteers, supporters, and local families. Developers want this land. If the rezoning board agrees, they can override our deed. We have 1 week to fight it. What can we do? Asked the woman holding her child. Speak. Write. Show up. We have to make them see this place isn't just land, it's life. The hens exchanged looks. This was their home, their story. They wouldn't go back into the dark. The next morning they began planning. The stand. When the day of the hearing came, Bright Hollow didn't send just people. They sent voices. Children read poems about meeting the hens. A teenager held a painting she made of hope crowing over a sunrise. A teacher presented research showing how farm sanctuaries improved empathy in students. Then it was the animals' turn. Tobias walked down the aisle of the county hall like he owned it. Behind him came Clover the goat, Edgar the pig, and finally the 3 hens, each carried gently by a volunteer. Molly looked out over the rows of board members, and for the first time in her life, she saw them not as shadows, but as people with eyes and ears. She stepped onto the table, looked into the cameras and notebooks, and clucked clearly, "We aren't things, we're lives." The room went still. Lucy added softly, "This place saved us." Henrietta spoke last, "Please don't destroy it." The verdict. It took a week for the board to decide. When the letter came, Miss Jamie read it out loud in front of the barn. A unanimous decision to preserve Bright Hollow as a permanent animal sanctuary, recognized for its educational value, ethical mission, and impact on the community, protected under county conservancy law. Cheers erupted. Even Tobias shed a tear. He blamed the dust, of course. Molly turned to Lucy and Henrietta. We stood up, and they listened. Henrietta nodded. We fought not just for ourselves, but for every animal who never had the chance. The 3 chickens that could. Chapter 7. The Legacy of the 3. Years passed at Bright Hollow, but some things never changed. The grass still swayed in the breeze. Children still came to visit, wide-eyed and curious. The sun still poured over the fields like honey every morning. And in the coop by the oak tree, 3 hens, older now, feathers tinged with silver, still perched side by side. Molly, Lucy, and Henrietta had become legends. Generations' hope had grown into a magnificent rooster, proud and kind. He led a small flock of rescued hens, always offering the choicest grubs and guarding the yard like a knight. Children loved him. He let them scratch under his wings and crowed on cue during story time. One spring, Hope and his mate hatched a brood of chicks. The tiniest one, with soft gold down and a curious tilt to her head, was named Ember. She reminds me of someone, Lucy said, with a warm smile. Takes after her grandmother, Molly replied, nuzzling Lucy's wing. The visitors keep coming. The sanctuary was now listed on travel blogs, school curriculums, and vegan food tours, but it never lost its heart. Visitors didn't come to gawk, they came to learn, to change. One day, a teenage boy stood quietly by the coop. He didn't speak much, just watched the hens pecking contentedly at the dirt. Before he left, he whispered to Molly, "I used to eat chicken, not anymore." Molly blinked slowly and bowed her head. "That's enough," she said. "One heart changed is a whole world shifted." A lasting mark. Inside the barn was a small wooden wall labeled, "Those who changed the story." Photos of rescued animals lined the space. Edgar, Clover, Petunia, Tobias, whose final years were spent curled on warm hay by the hearth. But at the center, painted in careful strokes, were 3 hens beneath the rising sun. Below it read, "The 3 chickens that could, born in cages, freed by courage, carried truth, left the world better than they found it." And every year on the anniversary of their escape, Bright Hollow held Feather Day, a celebration of compassion. Children wore paper wings. Hope led a parade. Stories were told under the stars. The final perch. One crisp autumn morning, the three hens sat quietly, watching the sunrise. "It's beautiful again," Henrietta murmured. "Every day it still surprises me," Lucy said, feathers fluffed in the breeze. Molly looked out across the fields. The golden light, the distant laughter of children, the sound of hope crowing near the barn. "We were never supposed to live this long," she said softly. Henrietta nodded. "But we did." Lucy leaned against her sisters, and we gave others a reason to try. As the sun climbed higher, they sat together, three chickens who had once been caged, now free, now loved, now legends. And somewhere beyond the farm, another chicken dreamed of flying. The end.